I think we are live now. And I think we're going to be joined by
Sorry.
um, hello, everyone. I think I pressed live earlier than 10 o'clock. So Martin and I are just going to wing it right like this. I won't tell him all the secret things I was going to tell him before. The secret things I was going to tell you beforehand. Anyway, it's really nice to meet you in real life.
Yeah,
Sort of.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
both here at the same time.
And I can do this and you can see it and it's the same thing. So I'd like you Martin has joined us today to do a reading from all of the books on his shelves behind him. Martin, if you were to turn around right now and pick a book off that shelf, what would it be? Just randomly. Let's try that.
Um,
I mean,
well,
I like to start off an interview by putting someone uncomfortably on the spot. Is it
well,
working?
I need to be reading a very exciting book called The Erex Compendium of Bread, which is like a super highly technical manual about bread baking.
That is amazing. And then you can teach us all what we need to know.
It's very nerdy.
Yeah, that lot of gluten strands, a lot of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is it as nerdy as I think I read somewhere that you said the fun of different grains and you sort of like I don't know, sort of like held yourself down, put yourself down a little bit like, "Oh, can you believe I thought that was fun?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's totally fun." But let me just, since it is now 10 o'clock, hello, in the East Coast, 9 o'clock in the home of Martin Sorge. I don't know where you are actually, but I'm just assuming that it's
Mm-hmm.
1 hour behind us. Us. Notice that it's us and everybody else is behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. It's an East Coast thing. You're probably used to it. But anyway, we are here today, we being the royal we, with Martin Sorge, who is well, we would say he is an award winner, the champion of the Great American Baking Show, and also soon to be a cookbook author. Is that true?
Yeah, I like tell people I've written it. It's just not out yet.
Right, exactly. It's like when you won the Great American Bake Off, but you couldn't tell anybody.
Mm-mm.
Except the difference is your publisher wants you to tell everybody that you've
That's
written
right.
a book nonstop. It'll be out in August, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, it'll
That's
be out in
perfect.
August.
And it'll be called Great Bakes.
Indeed.
And what might we expect in a cookbook like that from Martin Sorge?
I call it modern classics from the Midwest. So it's a lot of kind of been saving a lot of my really classic recipes like cinnamon rolls and brownies and things that I haven't
Yeah.
put on my Substack newsletter for this book because they're things that, everybody needs a good brownie recipe or a good, whole wheat loaf of bread recipe. And those will all be in that book.
I look forward to it very much. I mean, I love your Substack. It's sort of how I fell in deep like with you, because I just felt like our writing voices sort of jived, and also
Mm-hmm.
your recipes are very terrific, including the one we're going to talk to about today, a very specific one, which is the honey whole wheat bread. Here it is printed out on a piece of paper, so that I can always take notes and things like that. I want to just, uh, before we dig into the bread, I want to talk a little bit, as people are like filing in, I want to talk a little bit more about you because you describe yourself as a quote unquote home baker, which is, I think, what I would do too. And I wonder how you got from home baker to the Great American Bake Off. And even before that, like, you weren't always a baker, right? You had a job. Did you have to wear a necktie or something and a
At
suit?
times, yeah. So, I've always been, and actually I tell this story, I'll tell this story in the book, which is fun. So I always have been, I would say I was raised by two foodies, but in the least pretentious way.
Mhm.
Folks from rural Ohio and Indiana. And so I've always just been like my mom always said I always played with my food and was always really interested. Like I always wanted to go to the farm stand with her to pick up sweet corn and stuff like that. So I was always just thinking about food all the time.
Mhm.
And we're the type of family that are always thinking about, oh, what are we going to eat next?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I cooked a lot in college and, when I was first working, but I was never really good at baking. Then one year I thought, I bet if I measured the ingredients and really followed the recipe, I could bake. And it turns out
What? What
that
happened?
works. 'Cause I was a little bit more of an improvisational cook, and, so, yeah, and then the first thing I ever really got into baking a lot was bread, and then I wanted to do everything else under the sun. But meanwhile, I have a master's degree in public policy and economic development, and I worked for some nonprofit organizations. I ran a nonprofit organization. I worked for local government here in Chicago. And then really my focus in that career, which I still do consulting part-time, is really working, especially to support small, independently owned businesses, because I always thought of them as like the backbone of a lot of our communities. So that's kind of my other passion is kind of that community based economic development work, which is I can get really geeky about as well. But some other public policy things too. When I worked for local government and ran a nonprofit, I worked with a lot of elected officials to improve things for our communities as much as we can.
I see some parallels between you and Ina Garten. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I could lend you my scarf if you wanna do an Ina Garten,
Sure, sure. I should have put on my, my chambray shirt for this talk.
Um, but, one of the things I mean, to be a little bit topical, a lot of it topical, because that's sort of my thing. Yesterday was this day of, like, economic blackout that people
Mhm,
call for a national day of protest because of what has been going on in Minnesota with sort of a day of solidarity with them. It is, I think, also spreading into today as well.
mhm,
Um, and one of the things I was writing about yesterday was what we could do for that day and how we could each, if you can't, we're not all been able to run to Minnesota. We have to do things on our own territory because ICE is going to invade its way into our worlds, no matter where you live. And so,
mhm. I mean, I'm in Chicago. I know this well.
yeah. Oh, crime-ridden Chicago. Anyway, sorry, that was a little political aside. But the for me, I feel that it was a great day or is a great month or 6 months to avoid some of the bigger places like the Amazons and the
Mhm,
Home Depots and whatever,
mhm,
but it's not a day to me to not shop and in doing so, avoid our small businesses.
mhm,
I know that one of the businesses here in my town, a place called Paper Plane Coffee, which if you want great coffee, you can
mm,
get it from them, um, uh stayed open yesterday and made a point of it. He's saying, like, "This is
mhm,
how we are staying in solidarity. We're providing a
mhm.
place of comfort for you." And also, like, they can't afford to close.
I mean, it's one thing I think a lot of folks don't realize is like almost any, especially food business, since we're talking food, the margins are like incredibly thin. A lot of the owners like don't even pay themselves, especially as they're starting up. So these folks they're not buying a second home or a Mercedes with their coffee shop or their bakery. And,
Right.
a lot of times they're more passion projects than even economically sound projects. I worked with these folks one on one a lot, and it was like, ooh, it's so thin for them. So when folks, a lot of especially even a lot of immigrant owned businesses here in Chicago put out
Mhm.
statements, it's like, here's why we're staying open today. Cause it's a Friday in the month where our business is down because it's 0 degrees outside here in
Right.
Chicago. So, Friday is one of our busiest days, so there's no way, we would, be in the red if they aren't already for the month, if one day means a lot to our staff and our servers and everything else. So I fully understood that. Yeah, and to me, I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, and a friend of mine who's a restaurant consultant was also like, "If you're going to go out to your favorite restaurant on a Tuesday." I assume they're all closed Mondays.
Mhm,
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because
mhm,
especially in the month of January, it will also probably bleed over until February where people only go out for, I don't know. Valentine's Day, um, those days, they really need our custom those days as, or they're not they can't make it off of Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep, and I always used to tell folks in the neighborhood, they say, "Oh, I wanna see more restaurants," and things like that. I'd say, "Well, are you going to those restaurants that you already have that you like?" You know, it's one thing to say, "Oh, I like to see this boutique in my neighborhood," but are you spending your money there? Because it's lovely to walk by it and be like, "Oh, I love this store. Oh, but I never go
Mhm.
in there and buy anything. I just go home and order online." So, I could talk about that till I'm blue in the face.
Okay,
And
so
that's one thing I've been
yeah.
trying to do too, especially this year, is lean into the inconvenience of, yes, I'm gonna buy all my pet food from the pet store that is 4 blocks away, even if they
Mhm.
don't carry it, I'm gonna say, "Hey, can you order this in for me so that I don't have to buy it on some big website?" So that's what I've been doing, which I need to do after this, is call and order more cat food.
And speak we did I did, tease that there would be cats probably in this episode because as I was preparing, one of my cats who really does like to walk straight in front of the camera, usually tail held high, for all to see, stopped by, and you have 2 kittens, right?
I have a mother and her daughter, and they're the most perfect little fur balls. I don't know where they are right now, but I think my husband is entertaining them in the other
Gotta keep the children quiet.
Yeah,
But are they Russian blues or are they
they are.
they're so beautiful. They have the most beautiful I don't know, we used to call it, like, Siamese terms. It was like an apple-shaped head. I don't know if that's the same thing or if it's different.
Yeah, they're and most of all, like, I grew up with cats, but these cats are so well behaved, like, at dinner, like, it's like clockwork at dinner. They're like, sit down, and they both one sits on each of our laps at dinner like clockwork every day. They're, like, shockingly sweet cats. I took one to the vet yesterday, and she was so good that she, like, rolled over on her back and was like, "Rub my belly," to the vet. I'm like, "Who are you?" Our cats would be, like, biting the vet when I was a kid.
Um, yeah, my dog walked into the vet earlier this week, and he's like, "This is great. Look at me. I'm such an amazing guy." And then he smelled it. He was like, "Oh, I remember the smell.
Oh,
No, no, no,
no.
no. Gotta go, gotta go." Anyway, as much as I'd like to talk about pets nonstop,
All day.
I'd also like to talk about some fun grains. And I think I let's kick it off a little further with the talk of your preparation for Great American Baking Show, which I realize was a few years ago, but it has some relevance to today because you have physically breathed the same air as Prue Leith, who is now leaving us at the age of 86
I know.
to have a little free time.
And I'm like I was
Fine,
like,
Prue.
I hope I'm doing cool jobs like that when I'm 86.
Exactly. I was just like gonna buy my first like Prue glasses. I thought started to need doing like the reds, the pinks, and seeing what they can offer. Um, but I think you've spoken a lot about the feeling of walking into the tent. I want to go back and understand what it's like to think, oh, I should do this. I should go join the Great American Bake Off. How did you apply? Like, who pushed you to do it? Is it like a long standing dream or one morning?
So I'd always loved the Great British Baking Show and the American version, and I think one year a friend sent me the application and said, "Hey, you should apply for this," and the application is long, and I said,
Mm,
"Okay," and I filled it out, and I think I filled it out, like, after the due date, and so I didn't hear back, and the next year I just said, "Well, I've already written all this, so I'll just, put it back into the form and upload a new video," and then they called me immediately for, like, a phone interview, and I was like, "Wow, that was fast." And the audition process was to me, was really fun and really challenging, so, I auditioned, I think, 3 times just because like, I'd done it, I knew what to expect. It was fun to meet bakers. They do an in-person kind of audition, so I just like to meet people, so it was fun to meet people, and then, um there was a year off during the pandemic, and then the show kind of came back, and they're like, "Oh, we opened for auditions." And I said, "Oh, I'll do this again." And then somehow they picked me, because you audition, then at some point they're trying to put together the right group of folks to make a good TV show.
mhm.
Yes, they're all amazing bakers, but then it's the right mix of people to have different stories and different aesthetics and all that stuff. So somehow after, several years of auditioning, and I didn't think of it like, "Oh, this is a dream, I must be on the show." I just said, "Oh, that would be like a fun experience and a big challenge for me."
Yeah.
There's no cash prize, I remind people. And the American show, like, it's not as famous as the British one. So, I wasn't even looking to get any sort of notoriety at all. I just said, this seems fun. Usually you're at home baking by yourself, um, in the kitchen
Yeah,
or with your
yeah.
cats or your kids or your friends once in a while, but it seemed really fun to be in a room baking with other people who are really excited about it in
Mhm.
kind of a low stakes environment where there's no cash prize or not cutthroat. I said that would be really fun, and I'm a big nerd about baking, so I'm like, oh, I would love for people to ask me what I'm doing and why, because I can talk
Yeah.
until you tell me to stop about like, oh, well, here's why I'm using this flour, or here's why I'm using raspberries, and how you can tell when the pectin is set in this jam. Like I can
Mhm.
just keep
Mhm.
going. So that was kind of like, I would love to do that. And then I did.
What is the audition process like? What do you have to do for an audition?
So you fill out a very long application. So again, I always remind people this is not for people who just bake cakes or just bake cookies or just bake once a year. They have you list every type of bread you have ever made, every type of pastry you've ever made. And then there are a couple phone interviews with the casting folks to both check that you actually know how to bake and this wasn't just, you were telling
Mhm.
the truth on your application, but also if you can, what's your story? Can you talk, decently in front of somebody?
Right.
Because they want people who are great bakers, but who also are, going to be great on TV. And then there's a tasting where you have to bring some baked goods to a place for the food producers to taste to see, can you actually bake? And then they ask you some more questions.
What did you bake? I'm sorry, that is the question. I mean,
That's a good
gosh.
question. I'm trying to remember because I did it a few times. I think the last time I made it, I made and this recipe will be in my book, a
Yay.
pistachio and cherry upside down cake, which is actually really easy.
That sounds like a great combination of
Yeah,
flavors.
so sour cherries and then some pistachio flour and roasted pistachio oil in the cake, which really just is like, it's a fancy splurge ingredient, but it's just so good.
Right.
Um, and then I think I made a kind of like a yeasted filled coffee cake.
Mm.
That was a knockoff of one from a bakery here in Chicago, which I had the similar recipe published in the Chicago Tribune, I think last year, the year before.
Wow. I haven't seen that recipe, but I think I may look it up today because we've had, I mean, as you know, in Chicago, it's been, I don't know, like 4 degrees most of the week here.
Hmm.
It gets
Hmm.
up to about
Hmm.
20, 22. So I shouldn't
Hmm.
complain, but it's been kind of chilly. And all I'm thinking about right now is like, I mean, all I've done this week is bake, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
obviously it's my job, but I'm like, um, it's sort of, I feel more frenzied this week.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the time of year when I'm always like, "How can I crank up the oven?" Whereas in the
Right.
summer, I'm like, "Okay, the cherries are in season. I need to bake this pie, but it's hot."
Exactly, and right now, you can't see, but I have the oven right behind me, and we do keep our house at a very, well, it keeps me youthful, let's just say. The temperature keeps my skin very young, and, being by the oven is just a winner.
Mhm, mhm. Yep.
Um, so I have so many questions about the Bake Off, but I do think a lot of people, showed up to talk about honey whole wheat bread.
Mm.
And then we can get back to whether or not Paul Hollywood's eyes are really so blue, and but also more importantly, are you rolling your eyes? Um, because it was funny because Substack froze as you rolled your eyes, so it was like, "Oh my god." It was a real moment. But also I wanna know how nice Zach Cherry and, uh, Ellie Kemper were because
Oh, they were so great. I mean, the one thing about that show is everyone, the crew, the sound guys, the camera guys, everyone is, like, so nice, and, like, it's like a
Mhm.
little family, like, so nice. "Oh, hi, baby.
That's
Who's that?"
Calvin.
"Hi,
Calvin's like,
Calvin."
"Yeah, no, thanks." Um,
So everyone is so nice. Zach, I would say there's people like, "Oh, are you disappointed on how you were portrayed on the show?" And I'm like, "No, it's everything is real, but it's so much filming for such a short amount of time. Zach and I had a whole series of puns that we did every episode.
Oh.
And he would think of puns, and I would think of puns, and we'd come to each episode with all these puns, and they didn't show any of them. So that's the one sad thing is Zach. I could tell he would be like, "I'm gonna do some puns with Martin now." And Ellie was so great. She was just so fun. In the first episode, especially, they were both new on the show. They just would apologize profusely for interrupting us. And at some point, I'd be like, "Ellie, that's your job. You can interrupt me. I'm fine." I look frantic, and I am, but I'm not upset at you.
I think, do you ever, I mean, when you're at home and cooking, do you get into a zone or do you feel a little frantic sometimes too? Can I interrupt you while you're,
You can. It's like it's my nice like, it's actually the reason I bake is because it's kind of sometimes like my meditation and my happy place where I can really focus. Like I said, I used to work I ran a nonprofit, I work for a local government. Those jobs, like, nothing is ever done, and you can never do anything by yourself. You always have a committee, or you have stakeholders or the community, and so you always have to be thinking all these things, and when I'm baking, I was like, "I can do this. I can do it by myself from start to finish in 3 hours." So, it was very, like it was my meditation, and so you could interrupt me, but I, like, really wouldn't be bothered.
right, right. Um, that's, you also said that you prepped in your kitchen, like by cordoning off part of your kitchen.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that I read that I read that you'd written was, um, you talked about, and I wrote it down, but it was like, I come up with the recipes, I shop for the recipes, I clean up after the recipes, and I don't think people really understand what it's like to be a recipe developer, and it's not like I don't have legions of people around me. I'm doing my mise en place. I'm then cleaning up after those silly little bowls that I have. Like we done the thing. There's a bit, and going back to the supermarket. Hey, how you doing at the shop? Right? They know me, and
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
there's been times where I've been in the aisle looking for ingredients and people are like, "Do you know where the thing is?" And I'm like dishing out advice to people because I've
Mhm.
spent so much time in there. And yeah, do you find something like that for yourself or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a great little locally owned grocery store like 4 blocks from my house, so I'm like, "Oh, I forgot the powdered sugar. Okay, I'll go back."
Right.
But
Um,
I get my steps in because I can walk. I like faster to walk than drive, so that's nice.
yeah, the suburban me is like, "Gotta get in the car." So it's le less good. So we, I had you on because became enamored of your honey whole wheat bread. And, it is a beautiful bread. I wanna show people I'm not making it while we're on today, but I did make one yesterday, to show. Here's one I made earlier, as we like to say in TV land, and it is a beautiful. I mean, it's a little dented in the middle because of the way I never mind. I put the lid on it and
It
never
looks
mind.
perfect.
More. Um, but I sliced into it having an idea of what it would be like, and I am so happy with this bread. It is the bread of my childhood. It's the bread that my father would buy it, but it was definitely this bread. He liked to slice it and let it dry out in the, fridge, so it'd be crunchy. That's another
Mm,
thing.
mhm,
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. It
I
was like,
understand.
why toast it if you can just desiccate it in the fridge? But my husband, it also loves this bread because he spent a lot of time in Germany. It
Mm.
is such a beautiful bread and so easy to make and
It's
super healthy.
it is ridiculously easy to make, in my opinion. I'm like
Yeah,
I always tell people, I'm like, "I'm mad at this recipe because it's, like, too easy." I'm like, "You just stir it."
you stir it and you walk away, and then you come back and you stir it. So, talk us through some of the ingredients in it that kind of set it apart from your average honey whole wheat bread and turn it more towards the sort of Germanic style loaf.
Yeah, so I actually learned sort of this technique, and I not this exact recipe, but a similar recipe, while I was in Germany studying at the National German Baking Academy because I have a big passion for German bread. It's the best bread culture on the planet.
Mhm,
I will fight anybody who disagrees with me on that.
mhm.
And I came home and I said, "I have to figure out this technique," and it happened pretty quickly, and the one thing that's really I like is a lot of recipes for whole wheat bread are not 100% whole wheat. It's some whole wheat and some bread flour, which is great, but you you can make whole wheat bread with just whole wheat flour and have it be just as, like, and I'll say it's not light and fluffy like a white bread, but it's not like a dense brick.
Right.
And this version is like moist. It stays good for several days. I
Mhm.
pack it with, like a lot of German breads do, with a lot of pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and flax seeds. So it's like really grainy and really wholesome, and it
Mhm.
has a lot of flavor in it.
Mhm.
Like a tiny bit of oil and so a good amount of honey, which is why it has a really dark crust, because honey darkens more
Mhm.
than other sweeteners, but that's other topic. And it's just, yeah, you just stir it all together in a bowl. I always have sourdough discard or starter sitting around, so I add a
Mhm.
little bit of that, which kind of gives it a little bit of tang, but not much. But it's pretty flexible too. If you have like different seeds and things, you want to put sesame seeds instead of the sunflower seeds or the pumpkin seeds, you can put those in. But then my favorite part is you coat the pan in the seeds, like
That
you
was the
butter the
most fun.
pan
Yeah,
and you coat the pan and you coat the top, and you can like, I mean, you can make a thick layer that is like so you can't see the dough, because then I always tell people the heel and the crust of the spread is absolutely the
absolutely.
best part.
Yeah. The bottom part is also beautiful as far as I'm
Hmm.
concerned. It could be like a pattern for, I don't know, fabric.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't and inside are toasted pumpkin seeds and on the, roasted pumpkin seeds, pre-roasted so that the flavors, because 'cause they're
Hmm.
not gonna roast inside, but on the outside, we put raw pepitas
Yep.
because they're doing their roasting right there against the pan. I didn't You asked for a Pullman loaf pan, which is a pan she runs off like a Muppet to get it.
I'm like, I have mine 2 rooms over too.
"Hey, everybody. Hey, I'm back, and here's a pan I this we use this is a smaller pan, so I didn't
Hmm.
use it. We use this to make milk bread with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you made a much milk bread in your life?
Oh yes.
I Milk bread is just like heaven in a pan. It's
Yeah.
so delicious. We should have you on to make milk bread at some point soon. Anyway, it comes with a lid, which is the reason I went off to show you. So you and why do you like making it in a pan like this?
So there's a particular loaf pan. It is the 9 inch, the
Mhm.
small Pullman loaf pan from USA Pan. This is not sponsored.
Right.
It has like
But I
these
have to go
perfect,
buy it now.
yeah, it is my favorite pan. It comes with a lid. It has these perfectly straight sides. And it's really, the volume is more than like a traditional, like 8.5 by for loaf
4
pan.
by yeah.
So like any recipe for any loaf, anything will fit in there and not like bubble over. And I just like the shape it gives. Plus, you can really for this. I basically scale all my recipes for that pan because it's my favorite pan. It just gives you this great shape. You can like I have a recipe for pumpkin bread in my newsletter, and it uses the whole can of pumpkin. So it's like you need a big pan so that that kind of big quantity of the recipe can fit in
Mhm.
there. But I just think it works perfectly having those like nice straight sides, and I think that the breads fit perfectly in the toaster when you're done. I don't know. It's like the world's best pan in my opinion. I give it to people for gifts. I tell my friends who like to bake, they're like, "Oh, my like friend was like, "Oh, my husband's getting really into bread. What pan should I buy?" I'm like, "This one."
I love that pan too because there's something so I mean, this is sort of ugly word, but rectilinear about it. It's
Mhm.
so tidy that I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, this is so pretty."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, you also use something that I saw in your video. It's sort of like a hand whisk, and I don't have one, but
Mm.
it's like a whisk that has that sort of twist. It's like a
It's a Danish dough whisk.
Mhm.
Yeah, I bought it a long time ago thinking I'm never going to use this, and I use it all the time. It's the best way to mix, especially like a no knead dough. You can use a wooden spoon just fine. But it gets in there and kind of mixes up, gets all those little nooks and crannies without it. Like you can't use a regular whisk because it would stick in the middle. Then
Yeah.
you'd have to like pick it and poke it out. But these dough whisks just are perfect for mixing, especially really wet bread dough.
Mhm.
Like any no knead bread, which I make all the time. I just grab that dough whisk, give it a good stir, and it works perfectly. For this recipe, you can use a wooden spoon just as easily because it's a really highly hydrated dough, so it's looks wet and sloppy. So you can just use a spoon too.
Yeah, I just use a good old wooden spoon, and there's something sort of makes me feel all sort of quaint and old-fashioned when I'm using a wooden spoon for baking anyway,
Hmm.
um, and it was great, and not having to take out a machine, not having to do anything like that, and just being able to just dig in with my spoon was wonderful. It really does not take a lot of brain power, which is good because I sometimes get worried with bread. I feel pretty capable of doing just about anything, but
Mm.
since I haven't been to, like, become a bread sommelier in Germany like you have, oh my gosh, how long was that for?
So it's not done yet. So this is a year-long program. So yeah, I have to go back 2 more times to Germany for my bread sommelier education, and then a week of testing examinations.
Oh my good will you be baking, or will they be saying, "Now, does
It's
this have
not
sourdough starter in it or not?"
It's not baking, it's more of both, like, educational, like, taking, like, actual written test and essay questions, but also being able to talk about breads with people, kind of not necessarily and kind of present on, like, what type of bread is this? How would you describe this to a person? Because so think of, like, a sommelier in a restaurant. You ask them, "Oh, what kind of wine should I have?" Or, "What kind of wine is this?" They have to be able to describe it in words to you. So
Mhm.
it's a similar thing, so yeah, we get to practice that, and we have to write like a thesis paper.
Um, wow, you have to definitely have to write about that in your Substack because
Oh, I will.
I think we all wanna live that experience with you if we don't have the ability to go ourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. I can't wait. I hope you publish your thesis. My favorite kind of restaurants are those where they come with the basket and they're
Oh.
like, "Would you like this one or this one or this one or this one?"
Mhm.
And then you kind of look at them sort of like that, and they're like, "Would you like a couple of them?" And I go, "Okay." Because I think it's important to taste them.
Yeah.
Um, we have a number of people in the audience today who've come. I said before you show up here, do you have any questions? I haven't gotten any questions in advance, but if there are people out there who have questions about bread baking in general, we have the man, the myth.
Mhm. Or the
Um,
baking show, people are always like, "Oh, is it okay to talk about that?" I'm like, "I talk about that till I'm blue in the face."
um, so yeah, so you've talked about going into the tent, like I said, and you talk about, and I love knowing about the audition process because I don't think people really have a sense of just what a process it is. I mean, like you finally made the show, but you auditioned so many times to get on the
Mhm,
show. You really have to be dedicated. I think it's a great way to
mhm.
um, sort the wheat from the chaff. See what I'm doing there? It's a little wheat joke. I didn't prepare any puns for this because my family's been trying to beat those out of me, so I'm sorry.
No, don't let him
Um,
do that.
I know. It's, like it's like ripping my heart out. And they come so easily usually. Anyway, so we know about the beforehand. We know about walking into the tent, but then there's the morning. Like, do you have breakfast together? What happens afterwards? Do you all like complain? Like, do you all like fall asleep on a couch in a pile of like a pile of
Basically,
kittens?
yeah. Yeah, so we get to set they're very long days. A lot of times we would get picked up from our lodging at 6:30
Mm.
or earlier, which means, and they don't give us hair and makeup, so we have to be ready for the camera.
But see, that keeps it so natural that it's not like
Yeah,
it's like
and
me applying my own eyeliner, which is, you know,
say the lighting is really good, so it makes us
yeah.
actually look better than sometimes we feel like. And then we get breakfast, we prepare to make sure, all of our ingredients are on the bench and things like that. Triple check all those things. And then really long day, we break for lunch, but really long day. And then afterwards, we basically collapse, go back to our place and then fall asleep. And then if it's the next day is the showstopper challenge. We get up and do it again. We usually had a couple days off in between, which honestly for me was mostly just resting because I was just physically and
Yeah.
mentally tired. But then sometimes we practiced a little bit or
Mm.
thought a little bit about, gathered our minds for the next episode filming. But the great thing was the other bakers on my season are just like the world's most loveliest folks. Like we are all still friends. We all still talk. I'm really lucky that two of the other folks are in Chicago here. So like I call Sarah or Nirali and say like, do you want to go to the farmer's market? Do you want to meet up? And so it's like, yeah, it's just that those people are still like my really good friends.
And it's your very much your, like, they're like your college buddies, right? Like, you were in the same fraternity or sorority, I mean, like, you've really bonded in that experience of being on the baking show.
Oh, yeah, and we've had, like, 2 reunions where we all get together, as many people as can, or, like, somebody else is near somebody else, like, we visit. I had Karis, who was on my season, was basically my right hand during my cookbook photo shoots. She helped me with all the baking and organizing and hand modeling and all that things because she was really interested in how does a cookbook photo shoot work? Because she's a really good photographer and good at food styling, and I was like, "Do you wanna like, I'll pay you to come help me because I need somebody," and I'm like, "We've already baked together in a stressful environment, I think we'll be fine."
Yeah, exactly. You guys are
Um,
probably the coolest people there.
yeah, yeah, it's a good group of folks.
But you are in a competition, so is there that feeling of competition when you're under the cameras? Or
It's weird because there is, but it's not like, we also want everyone else to do well.
Mhm.
So, like, it's a thing where at the end of the challenge, if I'm like, "I'm done," and I see Susan's next to me and, like, needs help getting her pastries out of their case and onto the platter, like, yes, I will run over there and help. Or my favorite, which I was pretty much in full on tears during, was the very first showstopper. Sarah, who lives 15 minutes from me here in Chicago, was building a cookie sculpture of the Chicago L, and she needed me to help glue or like attach the little sign for her L station on there. And it said home on it instead of the actual station. And of course, like, we're all tired and stressed. And I take the L every day too. So we're putting it up and I'm just like in tears.
Oh.
She's like, so there's little things like that where it's like you can't not help them. Yeah, and we'd also behind the scenes brainstorm about like, hey, this recipe, I'm trying to tweak it. And we're like, oh, here's some things you could think of to do to make it better. But we also all had really different styles and strengths. So it's like I
Mhm.
can't like Diana on our seat, like her decoration skills are beyond anything I could ever do. So I'm like, I'm not competing with that. I have to just do my own thing.
Mhm, mhm. I think one of the senses I get from watching the show is that the people that they choose aren't like, the producers choose, aren't necessarily hyper competitive people, but
Hmm.
they're competitive with themselves.
Hmm.
So it's about, like, and so instead of, like, being aggressive and sort of, like, pushing your up competitiveness out there and creating a nasty atmosphere, it's about how most of us home bakers, many of us are, which is that sort of like, "I've just gotta strive to do my best."
Exactly, and I'm gonna Nelly answer and Nell or Nelly asked a question about what collection our season is. So our
Yeah.
season is on the Roku channel. It's season 1 of the Great American Baking Show on the Roku channel, which you can watch for free either on your computer, if you have a smart TV or a Roku device, it's on there. And there's old seasons of the Great British Baking Show on there too, like the original season. So that's where you can find it. And a lot of people ask that. I had some family members that said, "Oh, I can't watch your show." I'm like, "Yes, you can." It's not on
You
Netflix.
if you had a dollar for every person who has come up to you and said, watching the Bake Off is my happy place, it is my zen place," how rich would you be?
Oh, I mean, it would have been like a cash prize. My sister even tells me that she was stressed out a few weeks ago, and she was like, "I just put on the baking show, and I'm sitting in my room like, by myself."
I think it's, like, the one thing that's sort of like, I don't my brothers aren't bakers, but they're both like, I think they now have a greater appreciation for what I do because of the Great British Baking Show and the Great
Hmm.
American Bake Off, because they're like, "Oh, yeah, so did you know how to do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, wow." Because they turn it on at, like, 10:30 at night or whatever when things maybe start to get to you, because there's some
Hmm.
things, I don't know about anybody else, but there are things going on in the world
Mm.
that kinda get to me, and sometimes, it's not enough to have a cat, I need a cat and something to help me zen out.
Yep.
I
I mean, I still do it too. People are like, "Oh, can you still watch the show?" And I'm like, I have a different relationship to it now. Sometimes I yell at the contestants for doing things where I'm like, "Nope, that was not a good recipe idea. That will take too long." But it still like kind of does chill me out in a way.
I have a feeling if I said everybody on this call, if you click the heart shape button for how many times you've watched the Bake Off to calm down and to like give yourself a new lease on life, it would it would explode.
Yep.
I think we all feel that way. What was different about, and I'm looking at him. Hi, Mark. My husband's British, so I've spent a lot of time
Ah,
baking on both sides of the pond,
mm,
and that's a challenge.
indeed.
Some things are better than others, and I would say that the things I miss the most, and then I want to know what you miss the most because it's really not about me. Things I miss the most are butter, but really the creams, the different
Oh.
versions of cream.
Double cream. So
Mm.
I don't know if it'll end up in the final version, but I have an ode to double cream in my cookbook because it is my favorite thing on the planet. It's a higher fat content than American heavy cream,
Mhm.
and it kind of tastes more like butter than like cream sometimes. One, it whips up in 2 seconds. Like
I was just gonna say you
if
can
you put
look
it in
at it and
and
it
it
will turn
curdles.
into whipped cream,
Yeah,
you
so
know?
all of us on the show, like, there were a few challenges where, like, we had to do, like, we had a technical challenge with whipped cream, and it literally I'm like I told folks, I was like, "Do not walk away because it will" like, we're used to America where it's like, "It takes 3 minutes," and if you're a baker who bakes all the time, like, you know how long it takes to whip
Yeah.
cream, like, it's, like, ingrained in your brain.
Mhm.
Nope. But I had a challenge where I wanted to decorate the cake with whipped cream, and like a whipped cream frosting where I had to pipe it a certain way, and I had to, like, add cream cheese and this much sugar to get it to hold perfectly at
Yes.
home, and when I got there, I was like, "Oh, I don't need to put anything in this. I can just put, like, a spoonful of sugar so it tastes right and some vanilla, and literally it stands up for a day." And I miss that so much
So
because
much.
sometimes I just wanna put whipped cream on stuff that, like so I can pipe it beautifully, but our whipped cream, you have to add mascarpone or something to make it stand up, and that I'm just like, "Somebody, will you make this? It's not hard, like, Wisconsin, you're right over here, like, somebody make
Exactly.
double cream."
Could you make your cows just a little fatter? I don't
And
know.
you can find this, like, jarred, shelf-stable double cream sometimes in grocery stores here, and I'm like, "Nope, it's not the same."
No, no, and, like, you can buy Italian, like, panna sometimes in some, like, fancy grocery stores, but it's
Nope.
not the same. Also, truly, the taste is so
Mhm.
'cause we ours is all ultra pasteurized for the most
Mhm.
part, the stuff that we buy
Mhm.
here, which makes it doesn't make it bad, I'm not that person, but it makes it, like it just makes it not the same product, it takes on a slightly different taste if you wanna be really, like, fine-schmecky about it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but can you give people out there who, you know, are dealing with American heavy cream, the tricks that you use to keep it shelf stable? You were talking about cream cheese.
Yeah, so I use there's a baker, Dan Langan, who Baked by Dan is his Instagram. He has a great cookbook as well, and he uses, which is what I use, is cream cheese. A little bit of sugar helps stabilize it too, but that way I also like the little bit of tang it adds. But that's what I
Mhm.
use to, and I think I may have a recipe or two on my newsletter that use that. But there's a lot of this in my book that will be out in August because I love whipped cream frosting. And so really it's just some cream cheese, heavy cream, and a little bit of sweetener, but it doesn't have to be too much. You can also use mascarpone, which is just as good. So both
Mhm.
with mascarpone, there's a point where you can over whip it and then it gets soupy again. But cream cheese is easier to find, which is
Yeah.
why I used it for folks. But actually, like, I prefer mascarpone a hair, but they're both great. But yeah, that's how I stabilize it. You can use gelatin, then it's not vegetarian, and I find it gets kind of clumpy sometimes. So I really like the cream cheese trick.
And, like, gelatin can be a big old fuss too, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
that feels more like science, and, like, cream cheese is like, "Look at me."
yeah.
Um, I, love using a mixture of, like, whipping cream, which I whip up,
Mm-hmm.
and, mascarpone and a little bit of sugar
Mm.
flavoring, just as a filler for a blind baked pie crust. I mean, like a tart crust,
Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
and fill it with that, and then just put fruit all over it, and ta-da.
Yes, basically have a recipe in my book. That's, that's exactly
See?
because it's so it's a perfect summer recipe because you can like blind bake the crust day ahead of time or at night when it's cool, and then the next day
Mhm.
like quickly serve it up to people, and it's so fresh
So
and just
fresh
like
and so
light.
delicious.
Yeah,
Mm. I should have eaten more breakfast, before I started talking to you, because now I'm really kinda hungry. Um, you also said that you hated fondant,
Yeah, oh yeah,
and
I've
which
never
is
used it once in my life.
can I kiss you? I think fondant could be so much fun to play with and stuff like that, but it really is the thing that I just, like,
Everyone
peel it right
does.
off, except
Everyone does.
the one example is with, Christmas cake, where I will get
Mm,
fondant, but usually it's fondant that I've bought in England, and I don't know, it
mhm.
tastes a little better, I don't know, and it really you just want it for that little taste of it, but otherwise, ugh,
Yeah, and I mean, it looks really cool, and some people do some absolutely stunning
beautiful.
things with it, but it's
I
just
don't
not like
not
that.
taking away from that.
That's not how I bake, and so on the baking show when they gave us, they were like, "You have to make an illusion cake." I almost quit because I was like, "I don't do that kind of stuff." And then I said, "Well, what if I see this as a challenge to make an illusion cake using no fondant?"
And you did.
I did, and
What
not
did
not a lot of buttercream either.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Mm.
We have a few questions that have come in
Oh, great.
from various climes, and one is, "Can I make this bread," and I'm pointing now,
Mhm.
"this bread with just sourdough starter if I give it more time instead of yeast
You
and
can
sourdough?"
try, but because it's all whole grains, the finished loaf will be on the sour side.
Mm,
And it depends on how strong your starter is. You can try, but I have tried a similar loaf like that, and because it took longer, the way that the bacteria worked, at least in my starter,
mhm,
the loaf was on the sour side, and I like
mm.
sourdough, but it was too much for me.
Interesting, okay, and, so but there and I made this bread without any sourdough starter,
You don't
so
need it.
it's
It's just optional.
perfectly delicious, and after this, I'm going to eat it with some butter and some cheese on it in case anybody's
Mm.
wondering what I'm doing with my afternoon. Um, what is the difference between this is from Kim, thank you, Kim. What is the difference between double cream and clotted cream, if you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know clotted cream. There's probably somebody
Yeah.
listening who knows better than I do. I think it's like either cooked or and when you look at it, like it's basically like spreadable cream. That's like how I think of it. Is like it's
Yeah.
spreadable cream and clotted. It's not like gross. Like the word clot doesn't sound good to
No, it
Americans,
doesn't.
but it's
No.
like cream you can like spread on your scone.
Mhm.
So it tastes somewhere between butter and cream. It's amazing. Again, the stuff you buy here in the States is, like, not as nearly as good as the really fresh stuff you can buy in the UK unless you have a dairy that makes it fresh, but, oh, it's so good.
Oh god, a dairy that would make it I mean, the thing about clotted cream is it comes from specific cows, that's why it tends to be from,
Mhm,
like, the Devon area that
mm,
have
mhm,
produced milk with a higher fat content,
mhm.
and so that's how you can have clotted cream fresh from that cow. I mean, fresh
Oh,
after it's been sort of, made to clot.
mhm.
Let's not use that word. Thicken. Thicken, it's made to
Yes.
thicken. That's much nicer. Kate McDermott. Hi, Kate. Kate is an excellent baker, queen of
Mhm.
all pie baking.
Yeah.
And she was wondering, I think, about um, we were talking about thickening whipped cream for piping, and she wondered about the use of agar,
I
our
have
friend
no
Seagull.
idea.
Okay.
I actually
It
have some in my cupboard and I haven't used it.
well, that's maybe today's challenge. Yeah, agar as used to be the thing that they thickened Dairy Queen with. Mm.
Mm,
When and people would be like, "What is that?" And you're like, "It's seaweed, guys." People think it's a
mhm.
fun name, but it's really that. Oh, Nell asks, or Nelly, I'm not sure how she spells it, pronounces it. What is your sweetener of choice? And I'm not sure if she means this by if your sweetener of choice for bread or in general.
I think she meant for the whipped cream, stabilized whipped cream. I use just granulated sugar,
Mhm.
because I don't use a lot and it'll dissolve pretty easily.
I use confectioner sugar because I like also that the cornstarch helps to stabilize it
Mm,
up
mhm.
on its own. And I think it's the Viennese in me that makes me like, I must add confectioner sugar to everything. Um, oh, um, so any other tips on I had a question about the bread, which
Mhm.
is, um, the stirring process, I think most of us, us basic bread people, like, well, I must knead it, and I should be sitting here slapping it and rolling it and folding it and doing things. How does this work? Like, why don't I
That's a
need to
good
knead this?
question. I don't know the full science of it.
Hmm.
But partially, so gluten isn't just developed mechanically, it's also developed when you have water in there.
Hmm.
You can't develop gluten without water. So you put the water in there and you stir, and it develops enough gluten from the stirring, but it's really the resting and the fermentation that develops enough gluten to lighten it. And the thing is, with whole grain bread, you have some of the outside part, the bran. There's the germ and the bran and the endosperm. You have some of the bran, which is like the outer coating, and it's kind of like sharp. And when you knead dough with a lot of bran, it basically kind of like cuts the gluten because it's sharp, so it can sometimes inhibit the rising of it. So a lot of times if you're making any whole grain bread, I always think you need to let the flour and water hang out together for a while so that
Hmm.
both the starches and proteins, but also the bran can hydrate and soften a little bit. So that helps a lot. But it's mainly the fermentation that gives it its lift, showing that you don't always need to knead bread, especially this one. But like the exact science, I'm not 100% sure. It gives you get enough structure by some rigorous stirring because the bread is so wet you couldn't knead it anyway, even if you tried.
Hmm.
Um, that it just like I'm shocked by the crumb structure of it.
It's
And
beautiful.
it's not like it has some big holes, some small holes. It's not like the whole wheat bread you'll get at the grocery store
Mm-mm.
package. So it is like if you eat bread in Germany, you'll be like, I recognize this delicious texture, which I crave.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you can see that there's a variety of different holes, different hole sizes
But
here.
it's
It's
not like a solid brick either.
not at all. It's lovely to cut, and I think it's gonna. Yeah, here, look, see everybody. It's like a little springy in there. Um, it's great. Now, you, as we said, love to have fun with grains, and see, we can make it fun. We could sing. Uh, what kind of this contains flax seeds, it contains pumpkin seeds, it contains
Hmm.
sesame seeds and whole wheat flour. And did I say flax seeds?
Hmm.
What kind of other grains, like milled grains, do you like to use as flour?
How much time do you have? So my biggest passion lately is I bake a lot with rye flour. So I bake a
Mhm.
lot of rye breads, which is like you have to forget everything you've learned about wheat when you bake with
Right.
rye. It does not operate the same. It is like mud. It sticks to your hands. But it's the flavor and aroma you get from like a whole like a
Amazing.
bread made with like mostly rye
Yep.
is beyond. So I bake with rye like a ton, and have been doing a lot of rye baking lately. But then also a lot of spelt, which that bread. Secret tip for some of you, that wheat bread can also be made with whole spelt. But I'm saving that recipe for something else.
Okay.
Because that recipe's even better. Um,
What?
and just because I think spelt is really delicious and
Spelt
underused.
is so delicious and so underused. I find it's really hard to find in the grocery store now.
Hmm.
So, there are 2 places I'll put them in that I've own no real connection with. 2 places in New Jersey that and in Pennsylvania that mill their own spelt.
Hmm.
Community Grains, River Community Grains, I think it is. Um, and their spelt is wonderful.
Hmm.
And they're great to order from.
Yeah, and I
Do
get
you
mine from Janie's Mill, which is an hour south of Chicago.
mm,
A small business who I've met like all of their staff. They are the most lovely people, so highly recommend supporting them. They've had me. I rode a combine when they harvested corn one year because they were like, "You love corn." And I was like, "This is fun." I did grow up in Indiana, so I know what a combine is. This isn't like I'm not like the city boy who's in the country. Um, but this loaf, whole wheat loaf, is also the perfect place to use stone ground flour.
mm,
Stone ground flour doesn't like to be kneaded a lot. It needs more gentle handling. So this is one of the rare places where you can use stone ground flour and get a really consistent outcome. So freshly milled spelt. I have my own mill too. I'm weird, Sabine. Um, so this is a perfect place to use that. I've used black emmer is a really beautiful flour
Mm,
that Janie's Mill makes. Really good in especially like sweet baking, like shortbread and cookies and things. But you can, it's a little, maybe a little, I need to tweak the recipe a little bit, but you could make this look with black emmer. But then other things I like baking with, I bake with a lot of buckwheat flour. It's my gluten-free flour of choice. It
mhm.
has a flavor to it, I always
It
tell
does.
people, which
Mhm,
I think is delicious. Like I make not bread, but like brownies. You can swap it out 1 to 1 in a lot of things
mhm.
for wheat flour, and it has a pretty similar texture. I've even made cakes with 100% buckwheat flour instead, and it worked out pretty well. So
And
like chocolate cake,
how's the
it's
texture?
it's good. It's not like I've made chocolate cake where I literally just swapped out 1 to 1 all purpose for buckwheat and it had a similar texture. It had that buckwheat flavor.
Yeah.
But like my shortbread recipe, I will just put 100% buckwheat in it. And that might even be my favorite version. um,
Maybe the afternoon is spent making shortbread with different kinds of flours.
so it's funny you asked that.
Mhm,
That is how I like to test flours for their flavor is you make just a simple shortbread, no extracts or anything, and just
mhm,
swap out different flours to be like, ooh, I wonder what whole spelt tastes like. Just make a shortbread.
mhm,
Because you'll really get the flavor that shines through, and it works with almost anything. Even some gluten-free flours will work fine. I think buckwheat works well. Kate asked a question about the
mhm.
difference between French buckwheat and US buckwheat. The difference that you'll find a lot is whether the flour was made with hulled buckwheat or
Oh,
unhulled buckwheat. If you see like Bob's Red Mill is a darker buckwheat flour, it was probably hulled buckwheat. A lot of the European buckwheat flours, because I've baked with French and German, they've just been made with whole buckwheat flour, so it's a lighter color. They work pretty much the same. I've used both with just the same effect. So if you want something like a French buckwheat flour, you can buy some, but also just look for either white or whole buckwheat flour online, or some grocery stores I found white buckwheat flour.
that's great. Okay, because I haven't seen white buckwheat around me, but I also have a feeling that once we get off the call, I'm going to be doing some ordering of different grains. I have a lot of grains left over from testing for my cookbook, where worked with rye flour and because I use them like similar to shortbread, but making chocolate chip cookies, right? Because
Mm,
my cookbook's all
mhm,
about chocolate
mm,
chip cookies, and it's very much like a rye ginger chocolate chip cookie
mm,
is a really delicious thing. I mean,
mhm,
and I think so many people, like, worried that it's gonna end up tasting like a piece of rye bread, and it doesn't. It's just adds a lovely kind of slightly savory, slightly sour taste to the sour is the worst word to use.
mhm.
Um, but it also keeps it from being too sweet, which is one of the reasons that I
Yep.
use a lot of nut flours in my baking because it kind of tones down the
Mhm.
sweetness and amps up flavor that it amps up caramel flavors,
Yep.
if you're using whole wheat flour or obviously nuts. Of nut flours all do that. Do you,
Yeah, and I think even the rye
or-
flour I buy for this rye flour from Janie's Mill that I swear it tastes like cinnamon. Like, it has this really
mm,
that kind of warm spice aroma, but rye flour, because of how it works in especially in things like brownies and chocolate chip cookies, it keeps them, like, moister and gooier
yeah.
in the best way. So I have a rye chocolate chip cookie in my I have a trio of chocolate chip cookies in my book, all using each uses a different grain, um,
I'm really
and
looking
some other
forward to
things.
this
So
cookbook.
it's
Yeah, no.
yeah, rye works really well in things you wanna keep moist, so it doesn't work as well if you want, like, a dry, crisp cookie a lot of times, but if you want, like, gooey brownies or, like, nice fudgy chocolate chip cookies,
The
perfect.
best. Um, That sounds great. I think, my challenge for, a lot of the rest of the year is gonna be pushing myself further with different grains. And I thank you for the encouragement. I thank you for being here today. Does anybody have any last late-breaking questions about bread, the Great American Bake Show? Where are his cats? Why haven't we seen them? You can see his truly, like, adorable but they're beautiful. They're sort of more than adorable. They're beautiful. Cats on Instagram, a lot of good photographs on
That's
there.
like half of that. My Instagram personality is like bread and cats right now. So sorry.
And so I think what we're looking for these days is bread and cats. It's a great combination. If anybody has any questions, this conversation will be posted, and you can send in your questions that way if that's what you wish. If you and the recipe is also in the link to this if you want to make some honey wheat bread flour, honey whole wheat flour today. You can find Martin Sorge on Substack and Instagram, and you can watch old episodes of his show on Roku, different network with a
The
U
Roku
ending,
channel. Yeah.
the Roku channel, and that's easy to find on what we call the internet.
Hmm.
And you can find me also on Substack, which is probably where you found me, and go out and look for your cookbook and look for my cookbook. And I look forward. Yours is not out till August.
Correct. So if you subscribe to my newsletter or follow me on Instagram, you'll get sick of hearing me when it's ready for pre-order and order
Right.
in
But
August, and I'll
please
be
pre-order it.
and order Marissa's book too.
Anyway, thank you so much.
It
Have a
was
great,
great. It was great to meet you. Thanks for having me, Marissa.
thank you so much, guys. And thank you everyone for being here today. Bye bye.